When we're young, we have an amazing, positive outlook about how great life is going to be, but somewhere along the line, we forget to dream and end up settling. Join Up Dots features amazing people who refuse to give up and chose to go after their dreams. This is your blueprint for greatness. So here's your host, live from the back of his garden in the UK, David Ralph.
Yes, hello there. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. This is Join Up Dots. This is David Ralph, and this is a Wednesday solo show. It's actually Bank Holiday Monday when I'm recording this, very, very early in the morning. It's 6:53 in the morning. That's what I do for you guys. That's what I do. I put myself out. I climb out of my bed, leaving the wife behind. Well, actually, last night I didn't leave the wife behind because I slept in the spare bedroom last night because the wife was slightly worse for wear. Yes, I shouldn't be saying this on a podcast in case she ever listens to it, but the last thing she's ever going to do is listen to me on this podcast. But yesterday it was a friend's birthday, and we got taken up to probably the most bizarre experience I've ever had. Now, if anyone else has done this and would drop me a line and go, not only have I done this, but I do this every Friday, I'd be astonished. I would love to know because I think this is a one-time off experience. But we went to the Ice Bar up in London. Now, if you've never been to the Ice Bar, literally it's a bar made of ice, and not only is it ice, it is freezing cold in there, so you have to pay to actually get into the bar first of all. So that's a win for them. Before you even consume any alcohol, you've actually got to pay to get in, and you queue up, and you only have 40 minutes in there in case you die. And I didn't see anyone dead in there because I saw quite a few people banging on the door, desperate to get out as soon as they possibly can. But we went in there, and you have to get like these ponchos made of some kind of bizarre material because it kept your body warm. But I was all right. I went in there and I was fine. I dressed sensibly for the occasion, so I had my poncho on. And my wife, who, and all the ladies basically, because ladies do this, had open-toed sandals on and dresses, so the cold air was whizzing up into areas that cold air shouldn't be whizzing up into. And so they struggled. But where I struggled was choosing alcohol, because I don't drink alcohol. I have the occasional beer, but I had to drink like cocktails and stuff. So I went straight for the Slammerhead Shark, which was tequila and God knows what. And I've never had tequila. I didn't know that it was, but it was. It did something to me that wasn't quite good in my body. And so I followed that up with some other one. And literally, I walked out after 40 minutes and I felt pissed already. And it was only like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I felt really, well, I got to about the 10 o'clock and I said, no, I'm going home. That's me done. Thank you very much. And I sort of walked home in a very sober state. My wife rolled in at 3 o'clock this morning in less than a sober state. And so that's why I was in the spare room last night, and that's why I've got up early today to record this episode, because I feel all motivational, because I feel like I preserved my body. I went into areas of abuse, and I came back pristine. Yes, I came back pristine and godlike in a human form, because I'm ready to go on this Bank Holiday Monday. So what I thought I would do today is actually, and as I say, with the Ice Bar, it was so cold in there that you actually have to wear gloves, because the glass they give you is just a block of ice. Now, if anyone's actually sort of scraped snow, you can tell that your extremities absolutely fall to pieces. And that was the most painful thing, trying to drink these drinks while it was freezing cold in there. Why? Why do people do this? I don't think it's an experience that people need to experience. We know what it's like to be cold, and we know what it's like to lean over the peas section in the supermarket. We know that it's going to be chilly. What was the point? So if any of you do this on a weekly basis or have done it many times, drop me a line. And if you can explain to me why people are actually going in there, other than a kind of, we don't want to miss out, what is this about, then let me know. So that's why the voice is slightly gravelly this morning. I got slightly a deep timbre to my voice, but that's okay. That's okay. I will fight through. Anyway, what I thought I would do today is respond to a guy who dropped me a very short email. And Connor McCarthy from Cambridge in England. And Connor was talking about the motivational quotes that we play on the show. And he basically said, and I apologise, Connor, I have read your email. I haven't got it in front of me. I'm a little bit hungover, so I'm not as prepared as I should be. But Connor was basically saying, thank you so much for joining up, Dots. I love listening to the show. I'm very interested about the motivational speeches. Were they chosen for a reason, and are you going to change them in the future? And I thought that's very interesting that somebody's actually sort of focused in on those, because we play them on a daily basis. We kind of vary them around. But in response to Connor, and for anybody else who has thought that out there, yes, I chose those really, really carefully. And I'm going to go through them step by step and actually explain why I actually play those, because I think combined they're an absolute blueprint for creating the dream life, which is what Join Up Dots is all about. Of course it is. Just going to have a mouthful of coffee. I could even do the gargle game today, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to plough through. So yeah, so the speeches, I looked and listened to hundreds and hundreds of them as I was getting Join Up Dots done, because I like benchmarking. Or signposting is a better way to describe it. I come from a training environment, and if you are in training, you signpost certain points to give you a directional change or to summarise learning. So at certain points, I will play these clips so that I can literally close that part of the conversation and then go off into a different direction. And so when I'm talking to a guest and I think, right, okay, we've kind of covered this bit now, that's when I will say, right, to take us into the next part of our conversation, boom, and then we can use these words to actually proceed through. So the very first one, Connor, that I generally play is the Jim Carrey speech. And Jim Carrey said this a few years ago, and it was part of a good commencement speech that he did to a load of students. And the speech is probably about 15-20 minutes, as most of them are. This was just a couple of seconds, and I think this was the powerful message for it all. And so here's Jim.
My father could have been a great comedian, but he didn't believe that that was possible for him. And so he made a conservative choice. Instead, he got a safe job as an accountant. And when I was 12 years old, he was let go from that safe job. And our family had to do whatever we could to survive. I learned many great lessons from my father, not the least of which was that you can fail at what you don't want. So you might as well take a chance on doing what you love.
So with that, we obviously lead up to that last bit. You might as well take a chance on doing what you love. But for me, the powerful part of that is his dad. The fact he didn't quite believe in himself enough, so he took a sensible job. He would have loved to have been a comedian, but he didn't quite believe in himself. And I think that is a problem that most of us have, because we're surrounded by people who say, yeah, dreamers are no good. Yes, why don't you just be sensible? Why don't you be realistic? But everything they're saying to us is they're realistic. You know, it's not what you should be doing. Now, my kids are going through school at the moment, and I'm really pushing them to work really hard. Unfortunately, they're the kind of kids that do work hard. But I also desperately don't want them to sort of come out and work straight in an office like I did for many, many years, because I can see now that they've got opportunities. And it doesn't matter if you take 10 years working on no salary, really. If you get to somewhere where the rest of your life is going to be amazing, I think that's worth doing. And Jim Carrey's dad couldn't see that. Now, you could argue that he had responsibilities, he had a family to look after, he had all those kind of stuff, and I wouldn't dispute that in any shape or form. But I think nowadays, and that's why I play this clip, I think nowadays we can do the side hustle, we can build towards something in an evening for a very low startup cost to be able to create something that you want. And you can literally be a TV presenter, you know, you could create a YouTube following, you could be a podcaster, you can create your own online business, you can do anything you want. But you have to believe. Now, on the second side of that, what Jim is talking about is actually going for the thing you love. Now, that's difficult. because more often than not, you don't know what you love at the beginning. You just have to try things. So you will go into some areas and you think, actually, I'm not really keen on this, and you'll go into other areas. But through that, by joining up your dots, you will start chipping away like an ice sculpture in the ice bar. You get a block of ice and you chip. Oh no, I'm not too keen on that. Chip. No, don't like that. And little by little, you start to see what you want to do in life. I'm like that. Couldn't have dreamt that I would end up having a profitable business where I talk into a microphone and people listen across the world. It just wasn't on my radar, but I can join up my dots, and all the little things have led me to this point, but I had to try them. So with that motivational quote that I play, don't get hung up on the Jim Carrey side of it. You might as well do what you love, because that's kind of too big. That's too bold a statement, and people can't see what they love because they're just living life, they're paying bills. But do focus in on the dad's point of view, where he didn't believe, and keep that internal belief in you that you can move forward and you can do stuff, and it may take a period of time. You know, Join Up Dots literally took me it took me 6 months before I earned any money from it at all. So how many had I done? Probably about 200 episodes by then. Then I turned it into a very profitable business. Then I realised that I didn't like that business that I turned it into, so I went back to non-profit. And so it literally took me, I would say, about 3 years before I started earning very good money from it. And not just very good money when I'm in control of it all. I'm not having to do stuff when I don't want to. I literally just choose when I'm going to do it and when I'm not. It's like today, I decided I was going to record this show, and for the rest of the day, I'm not going to do much at all. Just going to pop around with family, nursing my wife's hangover. So really focus in on that belief, and don't listen to anybody else other than the right people, because little by little, you will find your thing. So, Connor, that's why I played the Jim Carrey speech. And I think that's a real powerful motivational quote to actually start the show. But then, of course, sometimes I fluctuate and I either play Oprah or Rocky, dependent on the conversation. So this is what Oprah says, and I think it really ties in with the Jim Carrey speech.
The way through the challenge is to get still and ask yourself, what is the next right move? Not think about, oh, I got all of this stuff. What is the next right move? And then from that space, make the next right move and the next right move. And not to be overwhelmed by it, because you know your life is bigger than that one moment. You know you're not defined by what somebody says is a failure for you, because failure is just there to point you in a different direction.
Absolutely spot on, Oprah. Absolutely spot on. You know a thing or two. Now, if you just listen to that speech and sort of breeze over it, then go and sort of start doing research on Oprah's life, her biography, because she started from nowhere, and she worked up to a point where she started to think, oh, I think I know what I'm doing. Now, that was quite into her journey. She was already a TV presenter, and she threw it all away to become the person that she wanted. She decided that it wasn't quite the avenue. Now, the only way you can do that is actually by being quiet and really think things through. Let it float for a couple of days, because your body always has the right answer. It really does. It's really, really strange. Now, I had a guy called Ron Holland on the show, and he was saying that we've got $1 million biocomputer in our head that can literally solve problems like nothing else. But you have to program it in the right way. And one of the great ways of programming it is by having a thought or a question in your mind before you go to sleep and letting it kind of digest. Now, I've had some whammies recently that have only occurred to me because I went off to St. Lucia on holiday and I didn't allow myself to think about anything. And that freedom of brain, it's working in the background, and bang, it comes up. So you have to be quiet, as Oprah says, and you've got to turn off, and you've got to be brave enough not to just get overcome by the mass of communication and information out there, because your body knows it. Your body knows it. Now, Jim Carrey, you can go back and you can listen to his story, not on Join Up Dots. He hasn't been on here yet, but you can go and find his story anywhere. And he was great into visualization. He believed his future was there, and it was just part of his process to go and get it. Oprah is big on visualization as well. She focused on what she wanted and she worked towards it. But with her, she is quiet. She's quiet and she allows the next step to go. Now, talking about myself again in Join Up Dots, I remember actually deciding to be a podcaster. And the first thing I thought I had to do was buy a microphone. So I sort of researched and I found a microphone. And I researched it by going over to Pat Flynn's Smart Passive Income site. And he had this kind of 4-step recording process when he spoke into a cheap microphone and you could hear the difference. And then he went to a next one and he went to a next one. And then that's why I chose the ATR 2100, which is the podcasting microphone of choice. Now, that was my first step. I had to choose a microphone so that I could start recording, but then I had to learn how to do the software. Then I had to learn how to connect with a guest. Then I had to, all tiny little steps that led up to the very first episode of Join Up Dots. And for whatever you're out there and you're thinking of doing, Connor, and this goes to all the listeners as well, you're not going to do it overnight. You're not. That's why you need the belief. But what you will have is the ability to do the next right thing. And it doesn't matter if it's a big win or a small win. All those dots lead to something. And it leads to a confidence building. It leads to a belief. So if you start right at the beginning and you really believe it, and every morning when you're brushing your teeth, you look into the mirror and right into your eyes and you go, yes, one day I'm going to have the most successful, whatever it is, your own personal success. And then do something, and then do something, and then do something. Every single day, do something. There was a lady called Pamela Slim on my show, and she said that she coaches people to create businesses, and the very first thing she teaches them is to turn on a computer. And they think, well, what? I can do this anyway. But then she says, and what do you do after you've turned on the computer? Okay, you open up Word document, and it's so basic little steps, but you can start ticking them off. And once you start ticking them off, you start building momentum and you can see that you're actually moving towards something. So that's why I play the Oprah Winfrey speech, because I think it's very important to have that belief, have that visualization where you're heading, but also not to get sort of blown away by the big dream. Just do the next right thing. Now, of course, in this stage, it sounds like everything just works like magic, but it doesn't. And you will go down detours, you will go down wrong turns. It's not easy because we haven't got all the answers, so we have to make mistakes. And sometimes life will just throw things at us that we didn't expect. We might be just on the cusp of what we think is amazing, and then something happens and, what's the point? It's never going to happen. But we have to dust ourselves off and get going again. I've had so many bad things happen in Join Up Dots land where I've literally sat on the sofa saying to my wife, I don't know. Is it worth it? Is it worth it? And she would say to me, only you know if it's worth it. And in my heart, deep in my heart, I would think, yeah, it is worth it. I know it's worth it. I know it's going to be what it is today. And I carried on working towards it. And that's why I play this speech by Rocky. So it's a kind of cheesy speech, but it's a wonderful motivational speech. And I remember when I first heard this at the cinema, and it was like he was speaking to me. I must have been at that moment in my life when I was looking for something. And Rocky said these words.
You, me, or nobody is going to hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done.
Simple advice, but really brilliant. And so you're doing something and you suddenly find that you build a website and then it gets hacked and you don't know how to do it, and so you have to hire somebody, and that wasn't money that you was expecting, so you have to hire somebody to get that done, and then everything's good again and you carry on working forward, and then you get your first client, and then you find that the client doesn't like you and you don't like them, and you thought it was going to be a big win in your life, but you just keep moving forward all the time. And not one person in Join Up Dots, I promise you, has come from the background of straight through success. Not one of them. And more often than not, it's the 3 years. The first year is when you start doing stuff. The second year is when you start thinking, hang on, I think I've gone wrong here. It's not the right way. And then the third year is when you get focused and you realise you've had the learnings, you've had the skill, you've built up that knowledge in those first 2 years, and then you say, right, this is where I'm heading, and then that's when it comes together very, very quickly. Never going to be right straight away, or I really don't believe it will be, but you'll be in the vicinity. You'll be in the vague area of what you should be doing until you get to that point. And so I suppose, Connor, it leads us to the last one that we play, and it created the whole theme of Join Up Dots, and that is the Steve Jobs speech. He said this back in 2005, and quite simply, when he said it, and I read it first of all before I watched it on video, it changed my life. I didn't realise it at the time. I just thought it was a really good speech. I liked it because it fell into the 3-stage structure. Everything that's good in life comes into 3 stages, really. If I used to do a training course, it was always a good beginning, great middle, amazing end. I try to do that in Join Up Dots as well. I try to give a big intro at the beginning, then we have the conversation, and then we aim for the sermon on the mic and the motivational, bringing it all together. Now, it doesn't always work, but that's how I kind of frame things, and I think he says this brilliantly. This is just a snippet from the speech, but it is something that is so powerful, and it ties everything in together, because what he's talking about is quite simply not having the answers, but sort of almost reaching out to something. It could be God, it could be karma, it could be personal intuition. That's what I go with, my gut feeling. And if I go against my gut feeling, which I do, because you think that you know better than your gut feeling, it goes wrong. And there's a great thing on Netflix where a guy is talking about how your gut, your stomach, is your second brain, and how the two work together. So your brain comes up with the ideas, but your gut has the feelings. So when you're in love and you meet somebody and you think, oh, I really like them, your gut, it's that. The rest of your body's fine, but it's your gut that starts stewing. Or if you're scared, where do you feel it? You feel it in your gut. And it's proven that by sitting there quietly, like Oprah says, actually listening or feeling the emotions that's in you. Are you excited? Are you scared? Are you calm? It's a great indicator to where you need to go. That's what Steve is talking about, finding that one thing to cling on to that will help you on your journey. And here he is.
Of course, it was impossible to connect the dots looking forward when I was in college, but it was very, very clear looking backwards 10 years later. Again, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. You have to trust in something, your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever. Because believing that the dots will connect down the road will give you the confidence to follow your heart, even when it leads you off the well-worn path. And that will make all the difference.
Now, the words that I love on there is off the path. You know, if you follow the path that everybody is following, you will get the crumbs, basically, because somebody will already be in front of you, you know. But if you create your own path, then there's no competition and you can go anywhere you want. Join Up Dots, for example, when I started it, people did not get it. And I had quite a few conversations with people where they were saying, why don't you just become this? Why don't you just become that? How are you going to make money from it? And I was saying, well, I don't know how I'm going to make money from it, but I think this is what I need to do. And so I went for it. And over a period of time, I struggled. I really did struggle. You know, I didn't have a team. I still haven't got a team. It's just literally me all the time. And I just plough through the undergrowth. I'm creating my own path. But of course, all the riches, all the wealth, all the success will come to me. I've created my own journey where there's nobody else. It's just me strolling along this path, hacking through the undergrowth, trying to find my way through. And little by little, it's getting bigger and bigger. And if you go over to iTunes, you can see us. We're getting momentum in New Zealand and Australia and America and Canada and the United Kingdom and across the globe. More and more people are listening to Join Up Dots. But if I'd gone the same path as everybody else, if I'd created the same show that everybody else was creating, maybe that wouldn't occur. So you just got to get yourself down into your own place, decide on what you want to do, take great advice from people, but get rid of the rubbish advice that people just throw away. And what I mean by that is, if you want to find yourself a mentor or a coach, find the good ones. And it doesn't even have to cost you anything. You can go over to LinkedIn and you can connect with somebody in a networking event locally to you who's actually doing what you're doing and say to them, I'll take you out for a meal tonight. Can I, ask you a few questions? You can find some great advice that will help you on your way. But you've got to do your own thing. You've got to look into yourself and have trust and just Go for it. It's like I've got a mate, I talk about him all the time, Neil Hughes, the tech writing, blogging person, podcasting person, and he said to me the other day, we were talking about something, he said, I hope you prove me wrong. I said, I will prove you wrong, because I always prove people wrong, because when I decide on something that I know because I've listened to the gut, it's always the right decision. I just work at it, and it might take me a period of time, but it will be the right thing for me. And so it will be the right thing for the show. It'll be the right thing for my family. It'll be the right thing for everybody. So, Connor, that is why I choose those speeches. And I have thought about changing them, but I think as a collective, with Jim saying, you got to believe, his dad's didn't believe, and you got to go for something that you love, which is difficult, but you will find it as you proceed through. But you've got to just start working on stuff. And then Oprah sitting there saying, just be quiet every now and again and just focus in on the right next thing. Jot it down on a notebook. What should I do next? What should I do next? And then start ticking it off, and then you can see progress being built. And then Rocky saying, every time, it's not going to work. It's not going to work every time, but you can dust yourself off, look at what's gone wrong, and then go again. And if it's a financial aspect that's really going to knock you on your heels, then get a job or get something else. Try to bring some money in just to get past that incident. I've been ripped off loads of times in Join Up Dots now, and I just now accept it as part of the progress. I'm going to work with people. It doesn't work. I spend money on building websites. That doesn't work. It's just part of the progress, and I just look at it and think, it's learning. It's learning. And then Steve saying, create your own path. Listen to your gut. Have trust. Have faith. But go for what you want in life, and it will come together. And I would be absolutely in the wrong to be releasing episode after episode after episode of Join Up Dots if at my core I didn't passionately believe that. But I didn't passionately believe that if you work towards something, it may take a few years, but you can create something which is then your own, which brings in money for you and your family, which is safe, that somebody can't take it away from you, which is a big win in today's life of, sorry, we're having redundancies. Oh, God, what am I going to do? But you don't have to spend a lot of money. You just have to put your time, your effort, and channel it in. That is what we do in Join Up Dots every single day. And that's, Connor, is why we play those motivational quotes. I think they're so important. I'm going to keep those. I might throw a new one in every now and again, but that's the reason. It's the collective. I think the four of them that come together is the perfect blueprint. Well, that is the end of the show. I can feel my slightly alcohol-fueled voice starting to dip on me, but it's an absolute delight to do this. I love this more than anything that I've ever done. And, I would do this twice a day. I would do this 3 times a day, 4 times a day, if there wasn't all the other stuff I have to do behind the scenes to make a show go live. But it's my thing. It's the thing that I felt that I could do. It's the thing that I love more than anything. And it's the thing that I work towards. Every one of those 4 speeches apply to my own personal journey. And that's why I give them to you. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Join Up Dots, Motivational Quotes, that's going to be called. And until the next time, we'll see you again. Cheers. See ya. Bye-bye.
David doesn't want you to become a faded version of the brilliant self you were once to become. So he's put together an amazing guide for you called the 8 Pieces of Advice that every successful entrepreneur practices, including the 2 that changed his life. Head over to joinupdots.com to download this amazing guide for free, and we'll see you tomorrow on Join Up Dots.